This is the third part of lesson 1-4, and it's talking about special cases. I want you to pay attention to the top of this. It says you can always compare two fractions by rewriting them so you have the same denominator. So that's using those multiples and creating like denominators so then you can compare the numerators. Those are very easy to do. This part is talking about how we can use reasoning, just using our brain, to help us come up with which fraction is bigger. One of those cases is that we're looking at fractions that are about 1/2. So they're pretty close to a half, and we can compare those that way. Or if we have fractions that are pretty close to 1. So I want to look at the 1/2 fractions first. So if we have 5/12 and 4/7. Now, the one way that I always take and think about halves is I look at the denominator and I think, what is half of it? So half of 12 is 6, okay? And 7's a little bit tougher because it's odd, but half of 7 is 3.5 or 3.5. I'm gonna write that down here too so that we remember that as a decimal. So 3.5. So when I look at these numerators, if half of 12 is 6, 5 is less than 6. So 5 is less than 6, that's our numerator. So 5/12 is less than 1/2. Because 1/2 is the same thing as 6/12. Those are equivalent fractions. 6/12 and 1/2 are the same thing, same value. Well, I said that half of 7 is 3.5, and I have 4 as a numerator. And I know that 4 is greater than 3.5. So 4 is bigger than 1/2. 5/12 is less than 1/2. Which means that 4/7 has to be larger than 5/12. Now again, I could change these and do like denominators and then compare them if this is more difficult for me. But for the people that have good math and number reasoning and you can look at these and see those, then this way might be a little easier for you. I have another one to show you as well. So let's look at, here's the next one. We are going to look at 12/25 and 51/100. So again, all we're thinking about is what is half. So if I'm looking at 25, half of 25 is 12.5. Or like we said with the other one, 12.5. Well, I know that half of 100 is 50. So now if you just take a minute and you look at 51, you should be able to see that 51 is bigger than 50, which means that this fraction is more than 1/2. Even though 12 and 12.5 are super duper close, 12 is less than 12.5. This I only have 12. Like if you think about it as pieces of candy, I only have 12 pieces of candy. But with 12.5, I have 12 pieces plus another half. So that is more. So in this case, 12 is less than half. 51 is more than half, which means that 51/100 is my bigger fraction, because 51 is greater than 50. Or I could say 51 over 100 is greater than 50/100. So 51/100 is bigger than that 1/2. 12/25 is less than 1/2. And that's how I'm able to compare these two without changing the denominators. So the next part I told you was looking at special cases that are really close to 1. And I want to show you one of those cases right now. And those two fractions are going to be 10/11 and 11/12. These two fractions are both missing one piece. So 10/11 is missing one piece. We talked about this yesterday in class, that we can see that it only needed one more piece to be one whole. This is the same thing. This is also missing one piece. I only need one more piece, or plus 1/12, in order for this to be a whole at 12/12. Now the thing is, I have to figure out which one of these is missing a bigger piece, because that's the only way I can tell which fraction is going to be larger than the other. So when we talked yesterday in class, we also were talking about the bigger the denominator, the smaller the pieces. So 11/12 is missing a smaller piece than 10/11, or 10/11 is going to be a bigger piece than 11/12. Okay, so 10/11 and 11/12 are both missing only one piece. They're both very close to one whole. So I'm going to draw some number lines to go ahead and figure out which one is bigger than the other. Because I know that the larger the denominator, the smaller the pieces, I already know that 12s are going to be smaller pieces than 11s. So when I think about this, I know that 11s are larger pieces. I also have two number lines here. So I've drawn my pieces, and I can see that 11/12 are here and 10/11 are here. This is a larger piece. I know that because 11s are bigger. I've cut this hole into more pieces. So in looking at this, 12/12 or 11/12, what I have here, is missing a smaller piece. So my next note to think about is the fact that 12s are smaller pieces than 11s. So 10/11 is missing a larger piece. So because I know this, I can then go ahead and compare my fractions. And in looking at the fraction bar, 11/12 is larger than 10/11 because it is missing a smaller piece. So 11/12 is missing a smaller piece, which makes it larger than 10/11.